So, I woke up with an interesting thought. I'm sorry for doing another one of these. So normally I can't really help it. I'm in a very hyperactive state. All thanks to being off medication, and that's stopping the suppression of my energy. Now I've got unlimited energy. That said, I've essentially done a quick search on my channel, and actually I could do a second one. I should double check. And I've realised that I haven't actually made a video on why I left Deviant Art when I used to use it. I used to use it basically back in 2016. I started uploading romantic fanfiction, which, yeah, questionable as hell. Also did articles and stuff, and it basically resulted in mixed results. Um, so back then there was like shipping wars and stuff, and it was never too bad, but it did eventually get worse as time went on, and eventually it just led to me breaking every now and then and just not liking the platform. I limited my sort of space in that sense when that happened. I started to sort of limit what I looked into, like artwork and stuff, and posts, and also like who I followed as well. And simply, I just didn't enjoy the platform, but for some reason I stuck with it like an idiot. And it just wasn't good, just objectively speaking. Um, and I tended to be pretty neutral after a certain point because I've sort of become more empathetic, become more understanding of others and behaviours for that matter. And it was fine for a while, and stupidly I also decided to make articles and sort of reviews as well as a form of literature because, believe it or not, I was never good in English. It was always good practice, and I decided to share it with the world essentially. And it did result in good things. I even did things like game photography, which, just in case I forget, I quit it because I was just fed up of doing it. It's not hard to do, it just requires a specific tool set and determination. I didn't import that as one somehow, and so I think people can do it in others. Um, yeah. Also, it's like you need a good PC, which shouldn't be that hard nowadays. Um, it's a good way to sort of get assets and stuff, and yeah. So eventually COVID happened. I turned vegan, and things were seeming a bit more positive despite everything going on. Yeah, the platform definitely felt a bit more neutral, but then I encountered another essentially cyberbully or stalker. I categorise them as both. They were making posts about myself and other people. There was this actually really nice artist who ran a sanctuary on there. I think called Pupa Vegan. I can't remember the name, but I have some of her artwork actually in real life. Um, and she suddenly disappeared after a bunch of harassment from content creators, which it wasn't just content creators, it's also basically what's it, the community as well. Because this content creator who had made a video on her seemed to also encourage harassment, like literally violated YouTube guidelines. And it's quite an alarming thing to see. Unfortunately, the artist disappeared, and not only did I never hear from her again, after offering support, um, there's just like no sign of anyone being there anymore, which was oh, there's no sign of like sanctuary either, which you're struggling to keep up, which by the way, the content creator never mentioned. So it was a big problem, and it really went to show that the community surrounding Deviant Art and people also finding things in it to make content on were massively problematic because, believe it or not, one of the biggest issues with said community isn't to do with the community itself, it's to do with the stigma of being part of it. And nobody really talks about this enough because really Deviant Art only got a bad rep for quote unquote bad artwork and bad fan fiction. This is mainly unfounded because I've seen plenty of good artwork on there. Fan fiction reading is not really my sort of thing. I only do it like every now and then, and it wasn't bad. Like honestly, if you'd spent time on that, it was fine. And people were making a point of this being one of the worst parts of it, despite it not actually being the worst part. Because the worst part was actually the community, the harassment and bullying that would be involved. But it got bad enough at some point that there was even like threats of doxing, and there was even spam bots you can actually remove from the channel. Whether it's got profile, like they comment on your profile and spam links, even like message you as well. So it's always kind of invasive and insecure. And this is before even the AI shit happened, which is another story I'll go into. But the content creation side and the community was not well moderated at all. But it was just bad. Just undeniably terrible. And it made it a bad place for anyone. The reason why minors ended up on there, for example, is because it's one of the only places that would allow them. And it seemingly is for the most part anyway. Like, there isn't really much content on there that's bad. You're not actually allowed to put up pornography. You're only allowed to put up like nudity, but that's it. So it's never a problem of like exposure. But one of the things I wish I realised about it was that the community was mainly full of minors, and it just wasn't good for the community, especially with it being so unmoderated. There's also problems with like premium subscriptions and stuff, and also needing that to download artwork, which is dumb. Especially with like HTML, they like put a watermark over the image, so you couldn't even download it for HTML. And that always sucked to me. I've been on and off of that premium before, and it's just not good. It didn't provide many benefits either. And despite all that, there was also issues with, I think, email as well. I remember trying to change mine several times, and it just won't work. And changing my name for that matter actually as well. I used to have really bad names. Just, it sucks. It's just bad. Eventually, the AI crisis happened. And at first, I was starting out kind of innocent, as like, oh, are they making bad images? And then it festered into what we now know as the overgenerated sort of garbage that we see now. Where it literally tries to mimic human art, and it can't mimic the soul. But where you might have thought divine art could be different, may instead become the problem. And this has led to what is essentially an influx in AI generated slop, and it became an unusable platform. Because I was browsing it almost daily for artwork, I wanted to filter out the AI artwork and just focus on the human element. But I didn't even know that they were using artwork from creators to essentially create their own AI generator, which was the problem. because I didn't even know I was part of it. And even after ticking a box, apparently, onto other creators, that didn't do a thing because your artwork was still on there. And I think it just meant that you opted out from being a current sort of user, having that recent content on there. So everything you've previously posted is essentially being trained on. And that became problematic. That's what I've understood of it anyway, I could be wrong. And so there was a massive influx, and finding real artists was harder and harder. It got worse from there. Because not only did they implement this system, not only it allowed people to generate AI art, they ended up adding a filter to remove it. And you might think, oh, that's good. More places should do that. It's only good until you realise it's only as effective as the tagging. Because if you added tags on that, and if people added AI on it, then it removes that, which is fine. There's no problem with that. The problem is, people weren't tagging it with AI art, so you ended up with a situation where everything was now AI art, even if you weren't looking for it. It's like, what the fuck are you thinking? Oh god, that sabotage was nightmarish. So it's AI art for that. I don't know what to call it instead of AI, it just sounds silly. It's generated art, I guess. Call it that for now. But yeah, generated art was everywhere, and there were even posts where, because nobody tagged it, there were people like investigating whether it was generated by AI. And there were cases of that where people were putting up quote unquote genuine artwork being accused of AI, but there were people on the opposite end where they obviously generated it, didn't tag it as artificial intelligence, and then ended up getting like obviously rightfully harassed for it. Just it existing, becoming a problem. So like artists like me, I'm not really that good at art, but others as well, it's not going to inspire confidence, and it's so problematic that I genuinely don't see how anyone could even use the platform. So now all the artwork that you wanted to see is gone because it's been replaced by generative artwork. So yeah, it's not a good situation. And it's not a good look either. And while other platforms were doing the same thing, I'd argue because Deviant Art is not very well moderated, it was worse. And eventually led me to deleting my account and all the artwork on it. But basically everything I posted ever. It mainly come about just because of the pile-up of problems and stuff. And at the time I was also distancing myself from the Sonic community as well, which I was kind of deeply invested in for a while. And that sort of led to me leaving it as well. Yeah, it's like genuinely worrying. The fact my artwork was being trained on without permission, and the fact it was so heavily unmoderated that not even admins really gave a shit. So, yeah, like, of course I left. It just wasn't a good place to be in. And when I looked at the alternatives later on, it's like, oh, so there are places that don't allow it, and there are places that actually don't like it. Yeah, I'll vote for that matter. Those happen to be like Universal Dawn and Mastodon, whatever. And also one Blue Sky, is that? And that seemed to be the only way, and also like forums like Reddit as well. So, yeah, it's a real shitty situation, and this is just my experience of it, really. And I don't really have any hope that Deviant Art can change. There's also problems with like the cloud storage and stuff. Because like sometimes you couldn't even upload an image to the actual site. You have to upload it to the cloud, which is weird, and then upload it there from there. It's just a complete disaster. I also remember like cases where I think I had like no internet at some point, and I couldn't actually access it because I needed to be on an actual internet router. I was using mobile data at the time. So it's just baffling things after another, and yeah, I've left for good. I don't plan on going back. I'm quite happy with where I am at the moment, and I suppose the question might be, would I release the things that I had before? To be honest, no. I think most of what I made is just crap. I don't think anybody really likes it. It's kind of hard to see that, especially when you have such a small following. And I'm not really good at artwork. I don't have the confidence in it anymore. I can't even remember what I fucking made. That's how bad it is. I've also been some weird routes, I think, so I don't really want to go into that. It's like looking back on so many of the things that I did, it's just, nah. Sort of opens old wounds and stuff, and I don't really want to be part of that. I did make some artwork that I was happy with, but I didn't really have much confidence in it. And the Deviant Art community didn't help that. Definitely cases of people saying, like, oh, this is shit, this is terrible. Thanks. I could use advice instead. As simple as that. Yeah, thanks for listening. That's my situation. And interesting to know if people have experiences there or not. I do feel this is kind of an important topic to an extent. There's a whole community, shit people. Just, I just don't understand how it's still a thing at this point. You know, even when I look for reference images now, I occasionally get recommended DeviantArt images, and sometimes the only ones I can find are actually on there. I just wish there was a better platform, or at least to fix its shit. And these problems are a lot hard to solve. You stop allowing AI, you stop the AI generator, you moderate the community a lot better, and actually launch investigations, because holy fuck, it's scary to think that someone literally just disappeared off the platform from being harassed too much. Like, hello, do something about it. It's fucking gross, and as far as I know, they're on the side of cyberbullying, harassment, and even just suicide. Like, they just promote it. They promote everything that's causing problems in the world. So they also didn't have any like discrimination rules, I think, because back when I was like a transphobic cunt, I was like pointing out a lot of things, and nobody really put that up as a red flag. So it was always a problem. And the fact that I wasn't even sort of banned for it is just weird. Yeah, thanks for listening. I'll see everyone another time.